Each February, we celebrate Black History Month by recognizing the men and women who have made significant contributions to our culture.
There is no doubt that 2020 will go down in history for many reasons, but chief among them is the fact that we elected Kamala Harris, our first African-American woman vice president, an alum of Howard University, a historically black college, and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, a historically black sorority.
This year, we saw a significant disproportionate number of Blacks lose their lives and their jobs to COVID-19. And couple that with the unrest that we saw related to the killings of people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
But through it all, Montgomery County has worked hard to remain a place that cares for every resident and that respects equity.
This Black History Month, we honor just a few of the change makers in our community,
who make us strong and proud to be who we are. Happy Black History Month.
Being around people of different backgrounds, our world is getting increasingly diverse. You need to understand how to operate with people from different backgrounds.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
If there's one thing that's been defined over the past year, it's the power of youth activism. And young people here in Montgomery County are raising their voices and proving there's no limit for social change.
Good to see everybody.
Avery Smedley is a senior at Albert Einstein High School. She started Students Towards Equitable Public Schools, or STEPS, the mission of this student-led group to bring equity to Montgomery County Public Schools.
I feel like there's a lot of impetus for curriculum changes right now, and really just have to seize this moment, because there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things around racial equity. We have such a culture of student advocacy, but the only thing is we're not really seeing so many stakeholders in that advocacy. So we were thinking with STEPS, we really wanted to, get more students from the Down County Consortium, where I'm from. I go to Einstein, and then students from NEC to really show them your voice matters and give them a space in advocacy.
The group started a year ago and coalesced around the recent MCPS boundary study, where there were strong opinions on how to redraw school boundaries. The members of STEPS met with school officials and lawmakers to advocate for change they wanted to be considered during the decision-making process.
Well, definitely looking at policy. I mean, the fact of the matter is our schools are segregated.
Really discouraging to go to another school for an athletic event or something and to see how much nicer that they have it.
It just doesn't make any sense. We are in the same county. Funding is the same, but looking at PTAs, who has more monetary power, more political clout, we're seeing very different experiences for students just depending on their zip code and the color of their skin.
Hi, my name is Avery Smedley.
Avery grew up in Montgomery County and first attended an all-white elementary school where she realized pretty quickly she didn't look like the other kids.
It was really isolating for me being an elementary schooler in an all-white elementary school. You realize pretty quickly, hey, you do not look like the other kids, you are a person of color. We talked about when I was in first grade, this girl said to me, Avery, if you get any darker, I can't play with you. And I was horrified to go outside. One day we lived right up the street, she was like, Avery, it's a really nice day, let's stay out on the playground. And I just burst into tears, because I was horrified to get darker.
There's a different energy this time. This is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the end. But we've got to educate ourselves. We've got to educate our children.
Just beyond that, segregation hurts white students as well. It hurts everybody. I mean, being around people of different backgrounds, we've seen that it helps with your cognitive abilities, your leadership skills, and our world is getting increasingly diverse, especially Montgomery County, but the United States, you can't be in a segregated place. You need to understand how to operate with people from different backgrounds. And also it's just really enriching, really interesting to be in an integrated environment.
This year, the group worked to get policy adopted designed to improve distance learning. And following the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the STEPS group decided it was time to have a voice in racial and social justice in our schools to underscore the need for better support for students.
We do definitely need more mental health supports. Montgomery County has one of the worst ratios of students to psychologists and counselors. I think at my school, we might even have like half a psychologist, not even one. Lots of schools have like half because our resources are very stretched. And if you look at the root causes of so many issues, like when you have police officers, that is dealing with the problem once it's already happened, once it's already occurred, giving somebody like an arrest record. But if you look at like, I mean, a child who brings a gun to school, like that's clearly like something going on, like a mental health issue.
Avery Smedley is headed to Duke University in the fall to study public policy, specifically housing and education.
Ending housing and school segregation would mitigate racism, the opportunity gap, the healthcare gap. I had to use this knowledge to create change.
2 areas that she says are key in integrating our communities and making our nation equitable.
I've always cared about these issues, but I never really thought that I could make a difference. So to be able to do this in such a short time, and I really feel like as I'm going to college, I'm leaving with me like a sustainable movement, and I hope that more students who look like me and students in general will feel like their voices matter. We have the opportunity to undo de facto segregation in Montgomery County and actually make our schools a reflection of our diverse district. We have the opportunity to stop little children from hating each other and themselves.
And so as a leader, I'm really more proud about creating other leaders.
Joe Hooks has made it his personal mission to give back to the community that he says gave so much to him.
It's building leaders, and really teaching that humility, and just showing that we care. It's not always about sports, but it's just about what we can do for others.
This Montgomery Village native graduated from Watkins Mill High School and went on to play football at Shepherd University. When his hopes of playing for the NFL didn't pan out, Hooks became a coach at his old high school and started the 480 Club, a nonprofit for student athletes that offers training while at the same time teaching important life lessons to reach and inspire young people.
Sports taught me a lot. It taught me teamwork. In this world, we have to be a team to get things done. Communication, brotherhood, being dependable for each other. And like I tell them, every day we come out here, it's like a new play. We have to adapt on the fly. We have to survive. We have to, uplift each other. We have to be flexible with our skills, and football is just perseverance.
Hooks has become a hero of sorts to the adolescents in the community. Not only is he making an impact by giving the youth options to grow,
you get a couple bananas, a couple breads, a couple apples, a couple potatoes, and just grab a pie.
He's showing them what it means to be a part of the community. Every week since June at Montgomery Village Middle School, Hooks organizes a food drive for families who are suffering due to the pandemic.
I wanted to show positivity, show love, show service. Take care. People trust who they trust. And when we first started, I wanted them to see a familiar face, to see an African-American man lead and serve whoever. And that's what it's about. And we've had anyone and everybody, any color, any diversity, come get food and change the narrative.
He's recruited members of his 480 Club to come out and pack up the food and supplies and take part in distributing the groceries to the families who line up hours before the drive begins.
Oh, is that the line back there? oh, shoot. Young kids just need some positive influence. So I felt we talk twice a week. I thought this was a good way to have some interaction safely and really build some skills up. So, when it gets warmer, we'll do some sports stuff and just know that's bigger than sports and we can do more things.
In addition to his advocacy with the 480 Club, Hooks has done work as a community outreach truancy prevention coordinator with the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office, where he helps students improve their attendance and grades.
I started to realize what the government can do for the community. I can't imagine living in another county.
He believes it's imperative to build these young men up and help them understand the role they play in the future of their community.
I want them to remember that they can come together, put positivity back out there instead of negativity. These kids are on social media and they don't have the guidance as much without being in school. And this is a safe place where they can hear less of a angry tone about what's going on, but also acknowledge it and to let them know that, hey, did you see what's on the news? Give them a hug, ask them how you're doing, meet them where they are. And so as a leader, I'm really more proud about creating other leaders.
My job and the constituents who I have to answer to are the 1.1 million residents of Montgomery County. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to residents of Montgomery County.
Dr. Travis Gales grew up in Chase City, Virginia, with his 2 siblings and parents that raised their children with a strong sense of values. He is the first physician in his family and gives credit to his parents' hard work that created the space for him to have the opportunity to become a doctor.
I chose to go into medicine because from a strictly academic standpoint, I'm fascinated by physiology and anatomy. And it's one of the few professions where I think you can bring together the social aspects of how you interact with folks and how you work to create change and make things better with the scientific aspects or the biological scientific aspects. And then the other component is, still being able to do something that's working with people directly to see the benefit of the work that you're doing.
In 2017, when Travis Gales took the job of county health officer, he didn't think his job would include leading a pandemic response.
We are living in unprecedented times.
Though it was something he had to study and think about, he will tell you in our time no one has had to put those principles into practice. Today, Dr. Travis Gales is the face of the coronavirus here in Montgomery County.
Make sure it's securely over your nose and your mouth.
And he's worked hard to let people know this isn't about politics for him.
Well, even in a political setting, my job and the constituents who I have to answer to are the 1.1 million residents of Montgomery County. And so as a result, if you notice any of our press briefings, there's a couple things that I try to do is to say, for the folks at home watching, I'd like to give you some insights for the folks at home into the world we live in. Even if it's a question with a political band, because that's the audience who needs to hear it and who needs to trust what we're saying and trust the guidance that we're putting out. I also try to make it very clear that I am not a political official. I'm not an elected official.
Dr. Gales!
And my job is to provide objective guidance. And so sometimes you may hear me say, from a health perspective, here is what we're proposing, recognizing that there are political influences that do complicate decisions that ultimately will be made.
He doesn't hesitate to say the work has been challenging, especially when the attacks become personal. He's been called arrogant and difficult to work with, and some of the criticism has been racist in nature. But in these instances, he always remembers representation matters, a lesson he learned early in his career.
I think it was my second year of residency. I was post-call. I was trying to get out of the hospital, and I was literally at the door, out the front door, and a woman just is yelling like, "Doctor, doctor, doctor." And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm trying to get home. And she came up and she said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I don't know you. My son has been coming to the hospital for years, and he has never seen a black male doctor before. And so would you speak to him and say hi? Because I just want to introduce him." Because she said it was important for him to see that, to know what his scope of possibilities would be.
The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed further evidence of long-standing health inequities nationwide as well as here in Montgomery County. Dr. Gale says these inequities have existed for many years, and it angers and frustrates him because there's been no system created to move beyond identifying the problem.
And so my hope is that post-COVID that we continue to have these conversations centered around why those disparities are in place. Everybody's gung-ho about contact tracing and let's put money here and put money there. Public health has been woefully and inadequately funded for years. And so I think this is a great opportunity to create a modern infrastructure that's up to date from a technology perspective and has the type of resources in place to not only implement some of those systemic changes that need to happen to address those health disparities, but really move the agenda to the next level.
Though there is a light at the end of the tunnel with this pandemic, Dr. Gale says we as a community have an opportunity to take not only what we have learned from this crisis, but also to use the current racial and social justice climate to come together to address these social determinants.
I think of the opportunity in the space of giving representation and voice to all the other people who don't have access to this space. And so not forgetting when you're sitting at the table in decision-making capacity to call out those isms and those phobias and to call out those disparities and to hold people accountable, because unless we do that, we'll just continue to gloss over and we won't do the internal work that we need to do as individuals, as a county, as elected officials and so forth, to again create that systemic change that needs to happen, so we're not talking about the same issues 20 years later that we already know existed in our communities.
We are so proud that we were named as the most diverse community college in the continental United States. That each and every person who comes to Montgomery College has the opportunity, dare I say the right, to feel that they have a space here and that we're going to meet them where they are.
In 2010, when Dr. Darion Pollard was chosen as president of Montgomery College, she became the first African-American woman to lead the institution. In the past 10 years, so much has changed when it comes to the community college experience. It's become a viable option for many people in getting a job or working toward a 4-year degree.
Now, I'm pleased to see so many graduates who are here today.
And under Dr. Pollard's leadership, Montgomery College has been able to capitalize on this new way of getting an education.
We recognize that the health and wealth of our community is dependent upon us doing the work that we do, and our success as a college is dependent on the community that we serve. We are so proud that we were named as the most diverse community college in the continental United States because of this wealth of inclusion and diversity that we have here at Montgomery College.
Montgomery College is the most diverse college in the country. 75% of the population are students of color, many of them first-generation college students and immigrants. The COVID-19 pandemic magnified some of the challenges that Montgomery College already saw amongst its student population. And while some people might be talking about big plans post-COVID,
many of our students are talking about food banks.
Thank you. You're welcome.
They're talking about unemployment. They're talking about hospital bills as a result of COVID. They're talking about COVID funerals. We were able to put out immediately to students almost $1 million of emergency funds. So we know that students aren't going to be thinking about school when they're hungry. We know that they're not going to be thinking about their next assignment if they're wondering how their rent is going to get paid. So we were able to step in and help so many of our students who needed basic skill security, as well as those who were also needing technology support.
Dr. Pollard says the reality is we are fighting two pandemics at this time and that one is amplifying the other. This includes the recognition that COVID-19 is adversely affecting the Black and Brown community as well as communities of poverty.
We also know this work around racial equity, this conversation of calling out white supremacy, being very clear about the fact that social justice is a part of what we do at Montgomery College. In fact, it's a part of our ethos as an institution. So we need to do several things. One is to name it. So I was very proud of statements that the Board of Trustees and also I did as a college president, articulating our commitment around Black Lives Matter, but also the fact that we want to be a part of the solution for our community. Part of that is creating space and place for dialogue. So we had a series of conversations where we brought in our faculty who are content experts in many areas surrounding this: political science, criminal justice reform, helping people understand and grapple with the language of the discourse community that we're a part of. And we were actively engaged in that.
Dr. Pollard says the college has a duty to provide high-quality, affordable education to the community they serve, what she calls an act of deliberate love. In her role as a leader in Montgomery County, where she wears multiple hats, she thinks carefully about how and when to use her voice.
I don't want to be the loudest voice. I don't want to be the one that talks the most, but I want to be the one that has one thing that I am able to say that resonates. As an out Black woman who is married, who's parenting a child, who lives in the northern part of the community, who's very much committed and active in the communities that we serve. I'm a mother of a gorgeous brown boy, and a part of me has to help him be prepared for the reality. So the conversations I have as a college president are deeply connected to the conversations I have as a Black woman. We're going to have to go through a little bit more pain and hurt as a community and as a country until we really actualize the idealism of what was intended in our founding. But I have confidence that we can do it.
You are true leaders, and you cannot help but become hope for all of us. We need you to be that hope for all of us.
you don't need to go through the dumpster. We have plenty of food in here and we'll take care of you. And for us, it's about giving them hope.
It's become a familiar sight over the past year. Cars lining the streets waiting for hours to receive food from one of the many distribution sites in Montgomery County. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified food insecurity here.
And help us to just be a blessing. And we just thank you for it, Father.
Something Reverend Pat Drumming knows all too well.
We just thank you and give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank you, thank you. Ooh.
Before COVID-19, the Rainbow Community Food Pantry was serving 60 families per week. Today, they are providing 125 pounds of groceries to more than 500 families each week.
We were getting the calls continuously. Even before COVID, we knew that there was a great need because, you know, this is the most ethnically diverse zip code in the entire state of Maryland. We have a lot of immigrants here, and not just immigrants who are coming to go to school. They're coming to go to school, but they have children and families. So they're working a lot of low-end jobs, you know, to make ends meet. But I got calls last night from my scheduler saying there's so many people that are begging, saying, please, please, can you fit me in tomorrow? And there's no way we're going to say no.
Nice and fresh. A woman who comes here, this is last year, but she had shared with me that morning. She said she got up and there was no food, none to feed her family, and she just started out on a quest. And that day when we pushed that cart of food out, she just cried. She just cried. I cried with her. I don't think it's a shortage of food. It's just maybe a shortage of compassion.
Reverend Drumming has a team of volunteers that show up regularly to make donations, pack up food, and deliver it.
Portobello mushrooms.
She and her team make it a point not to make anyone feel self-conscious about asking for help and to treat everyone who needs it with dignity and respect.
Was there any special needs?
She insists on a resilience to be of service with no judgment.
Hunger never takes a holiday, but you know that you put your heart and soul in it. And there's so many people who are working so hard to take care of their families. They're doing everything that they can. Just 2 days ago, one of my volunteers was here, and she was here early. There was a gentleman going through the dumpster out there. And she was able to say to him, you don't need to go through the dumpster. We have plenty of food in here and we'll take care of you. So those are the times that just grip your heart. And for us, it's about giving them hope.
The support of Montgomery County has been essential in her ability to feed the hungry. Reverend Drumming says the pandemic has given the county an opportunity to shine even more as a community that will mobilize to take care of its residents.
Even with COVID, they jumped in so quickly to organize with the council and the Montgomery Food Council as well. They included all of the food partners, and if we knew of any other partners, they even included new groups that said, look, we're willing to take on this task and make sure that everybody has food. No one's food insecure.
And to live with the worry as to where your next meal is coming from is something Pat Drumming can relate to. She grew up in poverty during the Civil Rights Movement, and the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. that everyone would have equal opportunity is something she has hope for as we move into this new time in our history.
This is America. This is what makes us strong. We're stronger together. That was the theme last night as well, and helping us to understand that we can do so much more together, and we're so much stronger when we are in unity and not tearing each other apart, and that when we're willing to help each other, no matter who we are.